The phone. My phone started to vibrate. I looked at it. It was from my daughter, Clementina. She was calling from Mozambique. It suddenly struck me that she was closer than she'd been in over a year, at least geographically. "Hello, baby," I said. "Hello, Mom." Her voice was strange. Or maybe I was drunk. "Why aren't you here? Are you coming to meet me? I wrote you an email, but you didn't answer. I know you're tight with Mom, I need to tell you something." I was right. Something was wrong. My heart stopped. It actually felt like it missed 1 or 2 beats in my chest. When I was pregnant with Clementina, I stayed in Africa for half a year. She was born here because I lost track of time. Arwa was her godmother. And then I knew. At that moment, I knew exactly what my daughter was about to say. "I'm pregnant." "Oh." I dropped to the ground and sat on the floor. "I've just seen the doctor." "How do you feel?" "It's fine. I'm fine. It's already the 4th month," said Clementina. "I wanted to wait to tell you until I knew everything was going to be okay." My world was spinning. The music from the funeral party washed over me, and I was swept away into a sea of uncertainty. How could everything change so suddenly? "Mom, can you come here when the child is born? I don't want to be alone. Please, Mom? You can even come now and stay with me. It's just 5 months. It's not that long." I took a deep breath. Every single nerve in my body was tingling, reminding me that I was in Africa. The air and the heat were so different, so familiar. My daughter was pregnant. In 5 months, a child would be born. The decision. What an outrageous thought, dropping everything and staying in Africa for 5 months. I liked the idea. It was so simple. There was nothing in Portugal that I had to hurry back to. I had money. My husband's restaurant was doing great. I hadn't been here for so many years. Accra had changed so much. The whole continent was changing. I used to feel at home here. I had friends, and there were people I'd promised to visit the next time. This might be the last time, I thought. "Mom?" Clementina asked over the phone. "I'll come," I said. "I'll be there when the child is born." "Oh, good." I could hear the relief in her voice. "I'll book you a ticket and you can stay with us." "No," I said. "I'll be there when the child is born. I'm not going to sit on your sofa for 5 months. I'd go mad." "Even more than now?" she asked, and we started to laugh. "Dad won't be pleased," she said, as an afterthought. "He never is," I answered. Things had been tense between us lately. The entirety of Africa seemed to embrace me. All the smells, the sounds, the scenery, all the roads I'd traveled, the people I'd talked to, the places I'd been. And at the heart of that enormous, incredible continent was a woman-shaped hole. Face your past. Brazzaville. I spent a sleepless night on the bus from Accra to Lome, the capital of Togo. I wanted to board the plane so badly. I wanted it to take me away from there, from the memories, from the pain that numbed my whole body. I was going to a place that had earned me almost every prize a journalist can get, that nearly cost me my life at the same time. Well, one came from the other. Was I ready to go back? I didn't really know, but I'd made my choice and the necessary phone calls. I took a plane from Lome to Brazzaville. I sat looking through the window and purposefully ignored everyone. Everyone gave me a strange look. Africa was in my blood, I decided. It called on me, pulled on me, and it wouldn't let me go. I stood on the tarmac at Maya Maya Airport and watched the giraffes in the distance. I called my husband. We hadn't talked in a long time. "How are you?" he asked. "Fine," I answered. There was a moment of awkward silence. I sighed. "You're going to be a grandfather," I said. "Clem's pregnant." "She's what?" he yelled. I rolled my eyes and swore silently. "Pregnant," I hissed through clenched teeth. There was silence. I was done talking. "I'm going to see her," I said. "I'll be back in Portugal after the child's born." And I hung up. The streets of Brazzaville. So, that was that. I had 5 months to go. One of the giraffes seemed to be looking at me. I looked back, and then I hailed a taxi, put my luggage in the trunk, and went to Congo, where my friend Yves was meant to meet me. Stir your memories. Brazzaville, 1994, long ago. We met in February, 1994. The bullet ricocheted off the street, throwing up a cloud of sand. I saw every detail, as though everything slowed in that instant. For a split second, the bullet looked weightless, like a small ball drifting past in a vacuum of time. In 1979, following a series of events that would give the House of Cards a run for its money, Denis Sassou Nguesso rose to power. He would go on to maintain his hold on the country for more than a decade. The collapse of the USSR in 1989 caused a sea change in the region. Soviet support for African dictatorships dried up. When Pascal Lossoba won the first multi-party elections, his opponents didn't take it lightly. I was sent there. Violence once again reared its ugly head in January 1994, and I was sent to Brazzaville to cover the conflict. I'd never been so petrified in my life. No one wanted to talk to me, but everyone wanted to kill me. Some of my journalist friends disappeared. The city was destroyed, burned, and looted. I was hiding, crouched on the ground with my back against a wall, tears streaming down my face. This was it, I thought. I was going to die here. Somebody squeezed my hand. I looked to my right and saw a man in a white suit. It was so clean, it was almost blinding. "On 3, he said. 1, 2, 3. And we ran. Present day. An old, green taxi drove me through streets I barely recognized. No wonder, I thought grimly. The last time I was here, there were barricades everywhere and people shooting at one another for no particular reason. Today, it looked different. Women sold snacks, fruit, and second-hand clothes on every corner. Wherever I looked, there were hotels and electric buses more modern than anything you could see on the streets of Lisbon. Yet, I felt like something was amiss. But Congo was just as I remembered it. Broad streets, low buildings, and the Grand Caf on the corner. I paid the taxi driver, took my suitcase, and went to meet an old friend. Why am I here? He was standing outside the cafe, elegant as always. He seemed shorter than I remembered, and his temples were starting to gray. He hugged me tightly and kissed me on both cheeks. "It's so good to see you," he said, and I hugged him back. "So good to see you too," I beamed. "Why did you want to meet me here?" "Please, take a seat while I go get some coffee." He opened his palm towards a table by the cafe window. "They will be here any minute." "Who?" I wasn't in the mood for crowds. "Les sapeurs, of course." I remembered them. It was one of the most colorful subcultures in Africa. I immediately grinned from ear to ear. A sapeur is a person who belongs to la Société des Ambianceurs et des Personnes Élégantes La SAP. Yves gave me a theatrical bow. "We believe that we should influence the world through chic, style, and charisma. It does not matter where you come from or what your skin color is. What matters is whether you look good, and when you look good, it makes the world a better place. Well, the world could always use more chic. Extravaganza. When they arrived, I could feel my jaw drop involuntarily. I'd never seen men as elegant and as eccentric in my entire life. They looked like they'd just stepped out of a luxury fashion magazine and were so colorful that it was almost surreal in contrast to the cracked, dust-stained city around us, like birds of paradise in a concrete jungle. They walked, they talked, sometimes they touched a jacket or bent down to feel a sock, but there were no erratic gestures, no unnecessary movement. They were always so poised. Wow. Words failed me. "Allow us to give you a fashion show," said Yves. The catwalk for the suppers was marked out with chairs and tables. "It is a bit like dancing," said Yves. "See, there is a choreography to it. Every move is there to show a part of your outfit." I listened. "See, you need to show the label. The logo is essential. It is there to be seen. Show the back of your tie. Show the lining of your coat. Float in it." He struck a pose. "And remember, you can only wear 3 colors at once. 3, like the Holy Trinity. You can't be more perfect than God." I looked at him. He was wearing the French national colors, a blue suit, red socks and tie, and a white shirt. He preferred Yves Saint Laurent, of course. I could hardly believe my eyes. "Is it authentic?" I asked. "Of course it is. It is genuine haute couture, but not the latest collection. This is vintage. This is our identity. Every supplier wants to be unique, outstanding, like a superhero from a comic book. It gives us a sense of belonging." "So it's more of a counterculture." He was so enthusiastic. I was having a lot of fun. "Counterculture sounds very negative." Yves scratched his jawline. "I prefer to think of it as just culture, you know? Style. It is not always easy. Sometimes our families did not understand, or people would shame us in the streets for wasting money. When Papa Wemba started to sing about La Sape, it gave us new strength. Then we were even more convinced that if you take care of yourself, dress elegantly, and have manners, you will go far in life." "You didn't fight back?" I wanted to know. "The only competition we believe in is in these clothes," he explained. "We wear only original Pierre Cardin, Roberto Cavalli, Dior, Fendi, Jean-Paul Gaultier, Gucci, Issey Miyake, Prada, Yves Saint Laurent, Versace, and Yohei Yamamoto. What you wear speaks volumes about you. You do not lose good cheer. You take care of others. You will always feed them, support them, lend them money if they want to buy a new suit. Because a beautiful new suit is our way of thanking God for creating such a beautiful world." My head tingled, as though electricity was running across my scalp. I knew that feeling. Every time I had good material, my head was covered in goosebumps. Birds of paradise. The suppers came and went, sharing their stories. Pope, the eldest. "And the colors," I asked, "do they have meaning?" "Of course they do. White means purity and birth." Pope, the eldest of them all, explained. "Red is strength and fire. Blue stands for faith, the sky, and dreams. Yellow signifies glory and wealth. Orange is for modernity and vanity. Green is for hope, prayer, and life. And pink means optimism and beauty." I listened, enchanted. Baba, the entrepreneur. "My friend has a boutique in Paris, near Chateau Rouge metro station." Baba showed me a picture, near the butcher, behind the hairdresser. "Do you know the place? We will work together. I will design the clothes, and he will make and sell them. Affordable elegance, that is our motto. We are looking for investors, you know." I looked around. There was one color missing. And what about black? My question raised some eyebrows. We don't like black. It signifies pain and death. Run. February 1994. We ran as fast as we could. I never thought I'd be able to move my legs like that. Bullets riddled the wall we'd been hiding behind just moments earlier. Yves led me away from the fighting to his friends. I spent a couple of days there, listening to the stories of the people I'd met. When I finally got back to where I was staying, I wired the newspaper to get me out of Brazzaville as fast as they could. While I was waiting to be collected, I wrote down all the stories I'd heard. It was like a fever. I wrote on every piece of paper I could find, and when my notebooks were full, I used napkins and book covers. I was possessed. That piece earned me every possible journalism award of the time, and for a brief moment, I was famous and rich. I sent some of the money to Yves. Yves' house. In Brazzaville, present day. It was dark when we left. Yves drove a taxi and took me home. We sat in silence for a while. Tell me, Adilia, why did you come back? I didn't know what to say. I hesitated for the moment. I wanted to write a follow-up story. Yves' flat was small and clean. His hats were hung in a row like a strange art installation. There were photos of men in suits from Vogue homes taped to the wall. I turned to my left and saw a woman where moments before there'd been nothing. "Hello, Adilia," she said. "I'm so glad we can finally meet. What brings you here?" Guinevere, Yves' wife, worked at the Radisson as a waitress. She'd just come home and was still in her navy dress and snow-white apron. "I want to write an article," I answered. The clothes were stored in 6 metal boxes. I looked on in disbelief. Guinevere chuckled softly behind me. "I'll show you the shoes," said Yves. He looked like a child who was about to show off his favorite toys. His eyes lit up, his back straightened, and he moved giddily around the room. "These are made of crocodile skin. These are made of anaconda. I have some English shoes as well. They are very nice, but the leather is somehow..." He searched for the word. "Not as interesting," I suggested. I held an anaconda shoe in my hand and could see the texture. "They remind me of the shoes my mom had," I said. One year she went to France to work in a hotel as a maid and send money home. The only thing she bought for herself was some crocodile stilettos. Guinevere smiled broadly. "I can relate to that," she said. "That is how the Sapeurs got their clothes as well. Some of them would go to France to work, save their money, and then buy themselves a nice suit or a pair of shoes. That was before the internet, of course. It is easier now." "Was that after the war?" I asked hesitantly, aware that the sensitive topic kept cropping up. "That war took everything from us," said Yves. "We lost our home, our family, everything." They exchanged glances. And then I understood. It dawned on me. In Africa, everybody always asks you about your children. If you don't have any, people always feel deep pity for you. Children are everything here. "You lost your children," I said. There was silence. "Yes, we did," said Yves. "Just like that. We survived, but they were gone. We were so numb. We were dead inside." His eyes were wet. I wanted to belong somewhere. I wanted to be in a community, to be cared for and to care for others. I wanted people to look at me and to know that I am a good person who will harm no one. He looked at me. "So I took the money you sent us and bought this." The silk suit. He reached into the box and took out the suit. It was beautiful. The smooth, silky blue of the fabric shimmered so beautifully. "It is Ungaro," he said. "I keep it here, but I don't fit into it anymore." I got fat, he chuckled. Do you want to try it on? I looked at the suit and felt tears welling into my eyes. I blinked. I wouldn't dare. The suit was too perfect. Try it on, my friend, Eve said. Maybe it can make your heart rise again as well. I looked like Charlie Chaplin because the trousers were too big. Guinevere combed my hair back, and Yves fixed my tie. Then he put his hat on my head. I looked in the mirror, and I saw myself staring back. The person I saw was definitely elegant, but did she have the power to raise other people's spirits? To create the right ambiance? I sighed deeply and felt my heart sink. I took the jacket off and went to hand it to Yves, but the smooth silk slipped from my fingers. Chapter 3. Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of the Congo. Waiting for the barge. In the harbor. When we arrived at the Kinshasa harbor, my first thought was that it looked like an enormous scrapyard. Mimnabi, the river barge I was taking up the Congo, was hidden among a maze of rusting iron. Finding it was quite the challenge. Barges would go up the river every once a couple weeks, or sometimes even every once in a couple months. Thankfully, I was in luck. There was one in the harbor, and the passengers had been waiting for almost 2 weeks already. Enough bribes had been paid, so there was a good chance it would move in the next 48 hours. It'd been a while since I'd had a backpack on, especially one that huge. I'd bought some food, a big plastic bucket for washing myself and my clothes, and a small plastic bucket for getting water from the river. Just don't drink from the river, Yves warned me. I sighed. Who do you think I am? Some stupid tourist? I packed some water purification tablets, a power bank, and a small gas camping stove. I felt like a camel. I'd forgotten there was only one thing I really hated about traveling through Africa. You had to carry everything you needed on your own back. Board of the barge. The barge. Memnami was long and flat, like an enormous floating metal table. And when I say enormous, that's no exaggeration. It seemed as though there was a small city built on the deck. There were bars, churches, houses, and shops made of plastic, cloth, styrofoam, and cardboard. I chose a part of the ship and headed forward it. Amidships. Why did sailors use such funny words? A group of men were selling a range of beverages from a makeshift bar. I wasn't hungry yet, and something refreshing sounded like a good idea. The toilets looked like I'd need a bit of liquid courage to use them anyway. May God save us from illness, accidents, and death, hollered someone in the crowd. I wondered how many people were on board. 1,000? 2,000? I was feeling isolated. Why did I feel so alone, surrounded by so many people? I sighed. I knew it was the only safe way to get upriver. The jungle was full of men with guns hunting each other over conflicts no one really understood. Futile, really. I found some space above deck. Finding my spot, I found a shadowed place in the deck, spread my tarpaulin out, and put my tent on it. It looked like a little palace. I hid. I got into my tent and zipped up the entrance behind me. I was the only Mondalie on the barge. I wondered what that would mean. Special treatment or same old trouble? Surrounded by all these people, I still felt very alone. Upriver. The engines whined, the water stirred, and up the river we went. The first days passed without incident as we slowly eased into our routines. The birth. There was sudden commotion in the middle of the night. I woke up, then heard the noise that had stirred me again, the unmistakable screams of a woman in labor. I unzipped my tent and went to see what was happening. It was a young woman I'd noticed when we were leaving Kinshasa. Even then, she was so heavily pregnant that it didn't look like she'd make it through the trip without her time coming. I asked around. It was her third child. There was no husband in sight, just an elderly father who was hardly any help. But she wasn't alone. People were swarming around her. There was a young man who was a Red Cross volunteer and a group of older women going back and forth. They were bringing her clothes for the child, as well as food and blankets. I went to my tent to fetch some vitamins and electrolyte pills. She looked so young. They named the boy Minabi after the barge. Boredom. After a week, the days seemed to merge into one long, monotonous span of time. I'd wake up at 4 in the morning with everyone else. It wasn't possible to sleep with everyone chanting and praying. Sometimes I lay in my tent and listened to everything. Sometimes I opened my tent and watched what was going on. I felt at ease observing, but not participating. No longer a stranger, but not yet a friend. Then I'd take my toothbrush and toothpaste to join the morning ritual. I stood in a long line of people slowly brushing their teeth and spitting into the river. A stream of white spume was left in our wake, extending down the length of La Fleuve. Old habits die hard. I adapted and found myself spitting into the river in no time. After I brushed my teeth, the smell of food in the air made my stomach growl, so I'd get breakfast. I usually started my day with Jafari's spicy fufu. At least, I was pretty sure the spiciness had killed off all the bacteria.